poetry reading tonight. But like I said, my name is Isabella Robbins. I'm on the board of the Chapter House, which is an arts organization. We are a native space, but we are open to everybody. And we are excited to have you all here with us tonight. This programming comes out of our recent online exhibition. So like many things in the world that was disrupted, Chapter House was sort of on track to get this brick and mortar space, things like that. That was the plan. But along came COVID, and here we are doing most of our programming online with goals of eventually having a physical space. But yeah, so with that, we had the online exhibition, But When You Come From Water, which comes from the poem Atlas by Teresa Siagatonu, who we are going to hear from in a little bit. And yeah, the exhibition is about water. You can view it at our website. Katie, maybe you can throw it in the chat. But yeah, the exhibition came from a lot of, the big inspiration was the work that our founder, Emma Robbins, who obviously happens to be my sister, does with water. She's executive director of the Navajo Water Project. And yeah, as we know, water has been extremely important in surviving period, but especially surviving COVID, having access to clean running water to wash hands, things like that. It's just been a really important part of our survival period. But with that, we wanted to create an exhibition that was surrounding this very important life force, and that is how we came to create But When You Come From Water. So with that brief introduction into the exhibition, I will next be introducing Tyler Mitchell, who's a longtime friend of mine and contributor to the Chapter House. And we're really excited to have him here hosting this poetry reading. Tyler Mitchell, he, him, is a Diné writer from Saline, Arizona. He's an MFA candidate at Northern Arizona, where he writes poetry. Tyler is executive editor of Salina Bookshelf Incorporated and currently writes out of Flagstaff, Arizona. So with that, I'll hand it over to Ty. If you have any questions regarding technical issues or whatever, feel free to either contact me or Katie Jans in the chat using the chat function. So yeah, take it away, Ty.
Thank you so much, Izzy, for the introduction. Now, before we begin, I'd like to introduce myself in Navajo. Yatesha A. Tyler Mitchell Yanishia, Tuliching Inchla, Hanagatni Buses Chin, My Deshkijni Deshache, Kiani Deshanella. Hello, everyone. My name is Tyler Mitchell. I am of the Bitterwater people, born for the one who walks around people. The Coyote Pass people are my maternal grandfathers, and the Towering House people are my paternal grandfathers. In this way, I am Diné. Again, I want to thank you all for being here. Thank you for all the attendees for being here for this wonderful night of poetry. Thank you again to the Chapter House for allowing me to host such an amazing event. Thank you to Izzy and Katie for organizing all of us here today, for emailing everyone, getting a list together, such stressful work to hold such a beautiful event like this. And most importantly, thank you to all the poets and artists who contributed to the But When You Come From Water art exhibition. I'm incredibly grateful to be introducing our readers tonight. So I do want to go over the format a little bit. We will be kicking off the event with the wonderful Teresa Siagatonu, whose poem titled Atlas is showcased throughout the entire exhibition. This wonderful introduction will allow us to feel the power and importance of this wonderful night. We will then begin with our on-call poetry readers. So the Chapter House opened up submissions for anyone willing to submit their poetry to share with us tonight, alongside the wonderful people who are already featured throughout the exhibition. And then at the end of the night, we will finish with more writers from the exhibition. So I'm not sure if we'll have time or if we would want to do a Q&A, but if anyone wanted to ask any questions or wanted to know any more information, please do hold that for the end of the show. So without further ado, thank you all for being here to celebrate the But When You Come From Water art exhibition. Starting off our reading tonight is Teresa Siagatonu. So Teresa Siagatonu is an award-winning poet. teaching artist, mental health educator, and community leader born and rooted in the Bay Area. Her presence in the poetry world as a queer Samoan woman and activist has granted her opportunities to perform and speak in places ranging from the White House during the Obama administration to the UN Conference on Climate Change in Paris, France. Offstage, Teresa creates and facilitates workshops, leads artistic and professional development trainings, provides mental health clinical support, and delivers keynote speeches across the country on issues that inform her 10 plus years of community work involving youth advocacy, educational attainment, Pacific Islander and Indigenous rights, climate change, LGBTQIA rights, gender-based violence, and others. She holds a bachelor's degree in community studies and minor in education from the University of California, Santa Cruz, and a master's degree in marriage and family therapy from the University of Southern California, USC. Aiming to use her background as a mental health clinician and poet to bridge the gaps in our quest for collective healing and liberation. Please put your hands together for Teresa Siagatona.
Thanks, fam. Taitela lava. Teresa Tine Lance Tufu Siagatonu. I am calling in from Auntie Deloni territory here in the Bay Area in California. And I'm just so honored to be part of this amazing lineup. I'm more so excited to hear everyone else share their poetry and share their words after I share a little bit of mine. Thank you so much to the Chapter House for the work you do to help give, a platform and give space for Indigenous artists of color to just gather in community, especially at a time like this. And so I'm a huge fan of the Chapter House and just a huge supporter of what you all do. And thank you also for asking to borrow the line from my poem to help guide tonight's gathering and also the exhibition, But When You Come From Water. That line in particular is really special to me because this poem, of many of the poems that I have, is really important because I was inspired to write it after the late Teresia Tewa, who was a pioneer in Pacific Island studies. She passed away from her battle with cancer, but before she did, she was a mentor, she was an auntie, she was everything to so many of us in our community, in our Pacifica community. And it was her research through her PhD work and just in our community that helped me to see the way the world relegates the Pacific to the margins of the globe. And really playing around with that through language and really helping to bring those margins to the core so that folks don't just think of Pacific Islanders through the lens of Hollywood or entertainment or your family vacation, right? But that folks remember something that the great Kanaka Maoli scholar, activist, auntie as well, Haunani K. Trask teaches me every day that upon the survival of the Pacific depends the survival of the world. So here is my offering, my poem Atlas. If you open up any atlas and take a look at a map of the world, almost every single one of them slices the Pacific Ocean in half. To the human eye, most maps center all land masses on Earth, creating the illusion that water can handle the butchering and be pushed to the edges of the world, as if the Pacific Ocean isn't the largest body living today, beating the loudest heart, the reason why land has a pulse in the first place. The audacity one must have to create a visual so violent as to assume that nobody comes from water, so nobody will care what you do with it. And yet, people came from land, are still coming from land, and look what was done to them. When people ask me where I'm from, they don't believe me when I say water. So instead, I tell them that home is a machete, and I belong to places that don't belong to themselves anymore. Broken and butchered places that have made me a hyphen of a woman, a Samoan American that carries the weight of both colonizer and colonized, both blade and blood. California, stolen. Samoa, sliced in half, stolen. California, nestled on the western coast of the most powerful country on the planet. Samoa, an island so microscopic on a map, it's no wonder people doubt its existence. California, a state of emergency, a way of having the drought rid it of all its water. Samoa, a state of emergency, a way of becoming a saltwater cemetery if the sea levels don't stop rising. So when people ask me where I'm from, what they want is to hear me speak of land. What they want is to know where I go once I leave here. The privilege of assuming that home is just a destination and not the panic, not the constant migration that the panic gives birth to. What is it like to know that home is something that is waiting for you to return to it? What does it mean to belong to something that isn't sinking? What does it mean to belong to the very thing that is causing the flood? So many of us come from water, but when you come from water, no one believes you. Colonization keeps laughing. Global warming is grinning all at your grief. How you mourn the loss of a home that isn't even gone yet, that no one believes you're from. How everyone is beginning to hear more about your islands, but only in the context of vacations and honeymoons, football and military life, exotic women, exotic beaches, exotic fruit, but never asks about the rest of its body, the water, the islands in them, the reasons why they're sinking. No one visualizes the Pacific Islands as actually being there. You explain and clarify and fix their incorrect pronunciation and explain till they realize just how vast your ocean is, how microscopic your islands look in them, how easy it is to miss when looking on a map of the world, excuses people make for why they didn't see it before. Fafatai thank you so much.
Ooh. Oh my, oh my. Again, Atlas is featured throughout the entire art exhibition. So just your words, they feel like a bridge holding all of us together right now. So thank you so much again, Teresa, for your wisdom and all of your hard work and your words. Thank you again for your presence. Next up, we'll be getting into our open, our on-call readers. First off, we have Quintero Herder. Quintero Herder is a student at Pima Community College in Tucson, Arizona. He is new to sharing his work, but is honored to have his heard in any space he is welcome in. So thank you, Quintero, for being here with us today and sharing your work for the first time. I personally reached out to Quintero only to find out that he already submitted his work because I believe Water had just recently been published in any magazine. So thank you again, Quintero, for being here with us today.
Hi everyone, Yata, Shea Quintero Herder Yanisha. I'm reading this poem from Tana Atem Pascua Yakilan. It's titled Water. So your mother carried you through new moon and full moon, creating craters. Here you are out of your mother's cratered womb. Your mother birthed you along a stream, creating a river. Here you are raging and choking in your mother's quivering rain. Your mother shed tears 6 generations deep, you 7 creating pain. Here you are drinking recycled rain from your mother's soiled tears. Your mother suffered the loss of blood fed by the river creating a sea. Here you are drowning in a flood of your mother's thick blood. Your mother drank from the nearby pond, birthed by the earth creating you. Here you are bathing in black oil. Your mother buried by the earth, now shallow with no ocean. Here you are, no sea, no pond, no tears, creating nothing. That was my poem. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Quintero. Would you mind sharing with us the that poem and another one I believe was shared recently in a recent publication? Can you share with us the name of that publication? I think you're unmuted.
Yes, it's called Sanskrit. It's a literary and arts magazine done by the community college, and it's a pretty impressive magazine. I believe it's an award-winning one. But yeah, that's what it's called.
Thank you again. It was beautiful. Just the words. I know it's just being here is it's hard. It's hard as a writer to expose your words to the world for the first time, and you did wonderful. So thank you again.
Thank you so much.
So Isabella did mention that you know, we should be allowed to be able to clap and scream and show our appreciation for these wonderful poems. So moving on, feel free to unmute yourselves and to clap, or you can use the emojis like Tanner's doing now, but please, we would love to hear you. We would love to hear you roar. So thank you again, Quintero. Next up, we do have Sally Chung. So Sally Chung is a soon-to-be graduate, mental health advocate, and a dear friend of Katie Jan's. Yes, we all feel like family here today. She is a daughter of 2 Chinese Vietnamese immigrants, and the poem she will be sharing today is based on their immigration story as boat people seeking refuge after the Vietnam War. So put your hands together for Sally Chung.
Thank you, Tyler, and thank you everyone for inviting me into this space and allowing me to also speak a piece of mine for the first time. So so this poem was came out of me not receiving an education that highlighted my parents' history or literature that highlighted that. So this is inspired by my mom's story in coming here and how water played a role for her. Okay. On Saturdays, feet bare on the dusty road, my sisters and I would run to the Mekong River. Pulsing through the heart of my town, straw boats anchored along the riverbeds, many would come to the water's edge, its steady flow, our life force. Some cleansing soiled sheets and plates, some awaiting fish to catch their bait. We held hands as we would wade into the warmth of the sun-soaked stream, the water enveloping me in a hug. When you come from water, you feel its abundance, its desire to give, and its nature to love. In the dead of the night, feet quiet on the dusty road, my sister and I would run to the Mekong River, heart pulsing as we snuck across the surveilled town. A straw boat anchored along the riverbed, many aboard, stuffed to the edge. We held hands as we would wade into the cold of the moonlit stream, unable to see what lurked beneath, what lurked beyond, what lurked for me. For 4 days and 3 nights, the water kept me off kilter and unsteady as I longed for a sense of solid ground and dreamed of a chance to be homebound. When you come from water, you battle the hardships of a rocky boat and you do what you need to stay afloat. In the Hollywood lights, feet unfamiliar on a foreign road, surrounded by strangers speaking in tongues, my sister and I would begin a new life. With nothing but the clothes on our back, we had to learn to survive and adapt. But when you come from water, you learn a few things, like water has a way of flowing around boulders, like water can carry weight and continue to flow. Like water, I have a way of flowing around boulders. Like water, I can carry weight and continue to flow. No matter how off kilter and unsteady, I will continue to flow. This I know.
Yay. Hey, Sally.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much, Sally. And again, first time reading, such an amazing job. So thank you again for sharing. Next up, we're gonna have Matt Ito. So Matt Ito is an Asian American settler born and raised in Honolulu on the island of Oahu. Matt is an avid Lawai, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. If I'm not, I apologize, musician and PhD student in English at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. Much of his research and writing focuses on Kuleana and Lawai Pono as ways to inform life-giving relationships to place and literacy practices within first-year writing pedagogy. So please put your hands together for Matt Ito.
Aloha, everybody. It's good to be with you all. The title of this poem is Holo Holo, and it's written in Pidgin or Hawaii Creole English. Ricky never fished long time, so Bombay had for go today. Nothing was going to stop Ricky from tropo a little while. Not the grout falling off the shower, not the kalamungai tree crowding the neighbor's yard, not even the bump spark plug in the 89 4Runner. Ricky packed all his stuff the night before. Rod, reel, tabbies, sand spike. One brand new box Seawave Ika, even tying couple liters for safe time on the water. That's because Ricky never like mess around when he fish. Gotta play the tides. If they're around, they're around. He reached the spot right before the slack, scoping out one space for set up his pole. Wing out one good cast too, over 100 yards, he guesstimate. Guarantee gonna bite, maybe. That's why they call it fishing, not catching. He forget where he heard that one from, but he like how the things sound, you know. For Ricky, fishing was like one retreat, one escape when no can handle the tourists making humbug in Waikiki or the sunscreen water at Ala Moana. All of that disappeared when he cast out his bait. Ever since small kid time, Ricky was at the water. His grandfather fished plenty too. Had one stall down Oahu Market over 30 years. Every summer, Ricky would work with his grandfather, going out for a Kool-Aid the night before so he can sell them in the morning. Till one day, the market never renewed a lease. Ricky's grandfather never lasted long after that. Of course, never helped that his grandfather went through 1-pack camels and 1 6-pack heinies every other night, but hey, all the old timers was like that, you know. Ricky never go fish much after his grandfather went make. Junk now, not like before time. That's till his cousin went catch 185-pound ulua down at the break wall, Haleiwa Boat Harbor. So now Ricky, he got plenty. Poles no catch nothing in the garage. But really, everybody knew Ricky just go for see his grandfather. Mahalo.
So much, Matt. That was beautiful. Yeah, I love your cadence. You just carried us with so much ease throughout that. And thank you so much for sharing with us today. Up next, we have Maria Cisneros. Is Maria here? All right, so Maria Cisneros is a proud queer Indigenous woman in the grueling but beautiful process of decolonization. She's a writer, poet, and educator with a passion for amplifying the experiences of her various communities through her writing. She and her fiance live in the Arizona desert with their beautiful dogs, cat, and chicken. Put your hands together for Maria Cisneros.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for sharing this space with me. I'm reading from Autumn Land in Arizona, and I'm so happy to be here. My poem is called The Water That Is and Isn't. When I think of the water that is and isn't, I think of the tears of a mother saying goodbye to a son, holding a few pesos and an old juice gallon filled with water, which will later be found in a scorching desert, every last drop gone, like the sun in the sun. I think of baños tajicarazos en tinas de aluminio, donde les dan agua a los caballos at my Mami Toña's house. I think of gardens and milpas, harvests that only exist in the minds of elders. When I think of the water that is and isn't, I think of plasma inside of a mother, surrounding her daughter, new hope for dreams and ambitions, things she never did or couldn't do, the same plasma in the same blood that will never be found deep in a forest, off of a highway, missing and murdered, one more name. The same plasma in the same blood that will be spilled in the streets, in the cities. George Floyd, one more name. When I think of the water that is and isn't, I think of pools and fountains and the rich, y sus pinches fiestas, in sus pinches mansions. I think of their oil and their water cannons, freezing water on Thanksgiving. I think of old water tanks on dusty roads, miles and miles and miles. When I think of the water that is and isn't, I think of bitter water. I think of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. Again, just everyone's just allowing us to travel through the lands that you occupy in such beauty. So thank you again. Next up, we have Tanner Menard. Tanner Menard is a poet and composer, Louisiana Creole, and a member of the Takapa Ishak Nation. They have published 10 albums of ambient music, a chapbook, and have been 3 times nominated for a Pushcart Prize. In 2019, The Wire magazine called their collaborative chapbook an album with Andrew Weathers, an influential modern composition. They are an MFA candidate at Northern Arizona University and a devoted practitioner of Kundalini Yoga. Please put your hands together for my good friend, Tanner Menard.
Good evening, everyone. This is an untitled poem. I prayed for this poem, for this exact poem, the way she is. Her light shone on me like pale moon on water. a current of sound which I am listening to now. The water inside of me is as precious as the water in all life. She assumes the structure of our capacity to love. I want to admit to the way I had spoken to her when she was housed in plastic, a bottle. I was at a table in a desert city when I expressed a sentiment which I didn't really believe and which denied her essential nature. She heard this utterance, crystallizing in what I could only describe as a disturbance, because I expressed discontent with a certain phenomenological condition, meaning my way of understanding language was based in the false idea that what I see is real. An alphabet unable to apprehend basic quantum notions of how much love we are meant to express. When I chose to stay home rather than follow a conviction that had been based in a misunderstanding of the fundamental constitution of reality, a few days before we were each sequestered into our resting places, which became a place where rest subsided in the face of an increasingly electrical reality, I began releasing an architecture of thought which had lodged itself, a dwarf star, into a rupture. There is no denying the nightmare that exists in the purely material realm, and this I have always believed in facing. Around the time when water was memified, and a prayer that originated with a star being was filtered through an artificial intelligence, I attuned myself to this phantasm, a distortion of my focus. I had put my own anger ahead of my consciousness and ahead of my inherent desire to be in relationship with reality. The polarity of pre-industrial connectivity and postmodern anti-ingenuity were twisting me into a thought that I did not want to live. And this is what you could feel. I had placed myself into the teeth of the monster, screaming its name into an ear that would not listen, forcing open its mouth with an anger that I do not wish to speak back into existence. I want to admit to my hypocrisy so I can inhabit the radiance that she requires of me. I am asking myself through her for that kind of help, to be right when I take her particles inside of me, the color of dawn inside, hovering over me. It is the first day again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tanner. A lot of Tanner's work is very meditative and focuses upon different levels of how we meditate as people. There's always multiple narratives in a lot of Tanner's work, so I love Tanner's work, and I'm so excited to be able to share that with us today. So thank you, Tanner. Next up, we have Colleen Cooley. Colleen Cooley grew up wandering the sandstones, mesas, and washes in Shanto, Arizona. Her curious mind and innate connection to the lands and waters led her to earning an MS in climate science and solutions from Northern Arizona University in 2012. And you, Colleen is an advocate and raft guide on the San Juan River, a community organizer, a skilled facilitator, a researcher, an amateur photographer, a runner, and a volunteer and recent board member with the Flagstaff Mountain Film Festival. This poem accompanies a photograph in show. So thank you so much, Colleen Cooley.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, and to the Chapter House and everybody involved for putting this reading and event together. This is actually my first poetry reading ever. And I'm new to poetry and writing as well, and expressing myself in that way. So I appreciate the space. And as Tyler mentioned, I'm a raft guide and advocate for and on the San Juan River. And this inspired me to write a poem about this river, which is one of 4 rivers that surrounds the Navajo Nation. And so I will read it off to you all. Her journey begins from the San Juan Mountains, taking you through canyons and washes across the deserted landscape, carrying snowmelt, making you shiver. She is sacred to many, providing water to plenty. She is full of silt and mud, but her journey continues as she flows into the Colorado River. Thank you.
Much, Colleen, for illustrating the San Juan River. The San Juan River is such an important part to the Dene, especially. So thank you so much for taking us there and honoring that space as well. Thank you again for all the people who are reading for the first time tonight. You all are doing incredible work. You have amazing words. The cadence that you all carry yourselves with is beautiful. So thank you again. Next up, we're going to have Tammy Dugai. So Tammy and Crystal Dugai, both of their works, their poetry, and I believe their art and their photos are exhibited throughout the exhibit. But amazing work from both of them. Their collaborations are amazing and important pieces to the exhibit overall. So please, let's give it up for Tammy Dugai.
Hi, I'm sorry, I lost connection. This is Tammy Dugai. I'm coming in from the Navajo Nation, Dinétah. My poem is inspired from growing up near the Cow Springs area, where our main connection to water was through the rain. We didn't really have access to anywhere else when it comes to water, and seeing the rain and being around rain, we were taught that to use it as a thing to revere. You know, we were taught that rain is precious, and anytime it rains, we're told to use it to bless ourselves. And when it's raining, you have a certain demeanor. Okay, hold on a second. I have my little Yaj right here. I was breastfeeding him. Okay, all right, so let me get to my poem. So initially I had several verses when I wrote this, and then my sister wanted to collaborate with me and add an illustration. So I only saved the one verse that I'm sharing with you right now. So it starts like this. But when you come from water, raindrops don't just fall, they bless. You find your place of reverence, welcoming the soothing lull. Hands reach over willingly, blessing you from foot to head to all. So we were taught in Navajo that when you approach rain, you put your hands up, you bless yourself, and you start from your foot and bless yourself to your head, as that's the manner that we grow. So thank you for listening. Yay.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jamie. I believe, Crystal, you wanted to continue this wonderful piece.
Yes, Yatek,
This is Crystal coming to you from Tonalea, Arizona, Dinétah Navajo land. I collaborated with my sister. She's more of a writer than I am, but I illustrated a few of her poems, and today we collaborated on a part 2 to her first poem. So this is going to be part 2, and again, it's in relation to seeing water as a prayer element, as being sacred. And this part 2 is just a little bit of a prayer poem that goes along with the part 1. So here it is. But when you come from water, you accept the blessings of each drop. As you cleanse your body and your mind, you pray for good health and good thoughts. Your prayers touch deep down into your soul. Lastly, you give thanks to the Creator, Ejehet Creator, for this life that you give to all. Ejehet. So thank you, everyone. That was part 2. And Ejehet Chapter House for having us tonight. This is beautiful and it's awesome. And all the words are beautiful. So Ejehet, thank you.
Ooh, thank you so much, Crystal. Both of you, thank you so much for reading your pieces today. Your poems remind me of how a lot of Diné literature sometimes reads as prayers. So thank you so much for saying a prayer for us with your words today. Next up, we'll have Gina McGuire. Gina McGuire is a native Hawaiian woman currently pursuing doctoral work on the coastal ecology and well-being through the lens of a Hawaiian healing practice. She holds degrees in creative writing from Lancaster University and tropical conservation biology from the University of Hawaii, as well as a BA in international relations from Stanford University. Gina grew up in the rainforest of Hawaii Island, listening to the Ua, the rain, dripping down through the native canopy and ferns as Ho'ailona, sons of those who have come before. So please, thank you again for Gina McGuire.
Thank you so much, Tyler. O ola'a ma puna Hawaii moku maiau. But today I'm here on Oahu. And I'm very humbled to be here with you all today. It's also my first time reading. So this is a great space and just so impressed by all of the work that's come before. This poem, Waiting on a Lihau Rain, was written earlier this year, walking out in the forest around dusk near my house. And it is heavy on Olelo Hawaii, and so I acknowledge that. And if anyone has any questions, I thought about translating as I go, but I'm just gonna read it and then leave it the way it is. So, Olapa leaves sway under Lihau rain, grave markers, kia'i no kona pu'uwai, Lihau, swift moving, sudden, as the heavens huli. Rain droplets cling to her salt-lined face, hold tight to numb-filled lash, each a prayer kupuna sent. Those that passed persist. Wet clothes cling to fevered frame, the rise and fall of weighted chest, offbeat with her slowing pulse. She takes another shaky breath, surprised she hasn't flatlined yet. Mahalo nui. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much for sharing your language with us here today. It's beautiful to hear you read. Just everyone's just on it tonight. Everyone's just sharing themselves, sharing their culture and their language, and everyone's showcasing exactly what this exhibition is about. So thank you again, Gina. Next up, we have Nupur. Nupur Behera is an educator, healer, and artist born and raised in LA. This poem accompanies a visual piece in the show. So give it up for Nupur Behera.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. This is also my first time reading, and just thank you all for your beautiful words. So this is a description actually for the visual piece, and the piece was drawn during the uprisings last year, during the summer of last year. And at the same time that this was happening, there was a cyclone that was approaching like where my family is from. And as I read this right now, there's also another cyclone approaching right now. So a lot of feelings there. So this is called Impermanence. A cyclone was easing its way into my homeland, a series of small coastal villages across eastern India. Making a touchdown at any moment, I sat far away on the Pacific coast, painting with tea and watercolor. Removed by distance, the winds creeping up my spine. I scrolled, the news drowned by the uprising, the pandemic, the calls for justice and humanity. I swirled in its abyss. Water destroys as much as it renews. It governs my people's culture, livelihood, and spirituality. Which pieces of us would it touch this time? Thank you.
So much. Beautiful, beautiful reading. Next up to close us off for the night, we do have Jonathan Fisk. So Jonathan James Pulakai Fisk was born and raised in Long Beach, California. They are Boricua, an Anteno scholar who studies sovereignty in all its forms and the ties between abolition, environmental care, and governance. They are in love with the ocean, constantly filled with wonder about the seas, their dynamics, and all the life they host. Jonathan also enjoys cooking whenever they can, especially for others, making custom espresso blends and studying herbal medicines and communal modes of healing and care. Please, let's top it off with our wonderful reader, Jonathan Fisk.
Thank you for that. So yeah, I am constantly thinking about the oceans, constantly thinking about life, death, and just what it means to be. And all that kind of culminated in this poem. Currently live on Tongva land, but wrote this back in Avavamalu, Oahu, which is a beach that I love, a beach I spend much time at, a beach that I hope to be at when I die. So with that said, Adorned Wave. South swell wave rising beneath early afternoon sun. Rays of soon waning day shimmering along each curve and glistening throughout each ripple, adorning their force with pearls of the oysters residing in the crude sands below until grace shone undeniable. Beauty taking form anew with every churning second, even as their crest arched beneath the march of time. Their passing noticed only by waves who crashed just before and those who rose in their shadow. Surely some gulls had swooped above, and crustaceans had clambered below, and fish had raced in their wake, but none had shared a glance nor lent a pause to their quiet neighbor, whose bejeweled elegance never sought recognition nor permission to tumult on their own accord. Mahalo.
Woo, let's get an applause for Jonathan and everyone else who read today. Amazing work.
Stay fast.
Yay.
Yay.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jonathan. Everyone, you poured, Gina, Tammy. I'm going to go down my list. Crystal, Colleen, Tanner, Maria, Matt, Sally, Quintero, Teresa. Thank you all so much for your beautiful words tonight. What the work that you're doing, the experiences that you're sharing with us is incredibly important to the world. It's incredibly important to our communities, and for us to come together on this wonderful night and to share those wonderful experiences. It means a lot to me. I'm sure it means a lot to everyone else here. I'm sure it means a lot to whoever gets a chance to see this wonderful exhibit. Thank you all for the people who are reading for the first time. You all did incredible. Thank you again to the Chapter House for hosting this event. Again, let's get a one more round of applause for everyone. That was incredible.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
So without further ado, I'm not sure if we'll have some time for some questions. If anyone does have a question, you probably would like to leave it in the chat or raise your hand using the reactions on the bottom. But again, thank you so much for everyone who read today. amazing, amazing work. I really do feel connected to all of you tonight. So thank you.
Thank you, Tyler.
Yeah, thank you, Tyler, for hosting this amazing event. You've been absolutely wonderful and just really encouraging for everybody. So big round of applause for Tyler for sure.
Yay, good. Thank you, Tyler. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you have any questions for any of the poets, please drop them in the chat or just feel free to shout them out. Yeah.
I did have a quick question. So to everyone involved in hosting the chapter house, I know Emma's one of the main people there. Katie or Izzy, you can answer as well. But so what inspired you all to create this poetry reading? What about words and literature and the work that these people share inspired you to bring us all together for this wonderful night? Because it's such an amazing thing.
I guess I can answer that. Yeah, I mean the exhibition, But When You Come From Water, I think we were kind of struggling at first with how to create an online exhibition. I'm consider myself a curator in the physical space. So it was sort of like, how do we kind of translate the physical space into the online space, but also what can we gain from that? And I think a big part of that was, a lot of the written works there are, like we heard from a handful, I think almost everyone who has a written work in the exhibition tonight, but it was just the opportunity to, have stuff beyond just visual artwork. And I think that was really exciting about having it in an online exhibition format. It just invited these other forms. And then we were just kind of toying around with different, I'm reading Jonathan's comment. Thank you. I am just kidding. But yeah, we were just toying around with different programming ideas. And two of the things that we thought would be cool to have conversations about specifically was the video, moving image works, which if you didn't attend that event, we did have also a live screening of the films that we had, but then also, I wanted to kind of put names and faces with the artwork. And so that I think is really how this poetry reading came across. And then again, just another way to think about the exhibition in a communal space like we would do if it wasn't COVID and we had, a physical location. So yeah, I think that's really how this event came about. And like I said, Ty's a good friend of mine from growing up, and I was like, he can run this. He can run the show, and he did a great job. So thank you, Ty.
Not at all a question. I just wanted to say a big time thank you to everyone who put this together and attended, especially for being so supportive of all of us first time speakers, poets, whatever. This was also my first time, but I didn't want to jinx myself by saying it before I presented. But yeah, big time. Thank you.
Yeah, and I have to say thank you to Jonathan as well, because I remember they messaged me when we had our call, not even for poems, but for artwork, and they were like, can I submit something written? And I think that really encouraged, and they shared it with their networks, and I think that really encouraged a lot of other people to submit written work. So a good contingent of Hawaiians and Hawaii-based people, so appreciate that.
I just wanted to jump in here really quickly. Hey, everybody, it's Emma. I'm the founder of the Chapter House, and I'm currently on parental leave. And I just want to say thank you to everyone who participated this evening. And it's been really beautiful. Izzy had put into the chat that it was really great to see how people had incorporated Teresa's line and sort of her work as well. And I'm just like blown away. You know, we do a lot of online stuff, obviously because of COVID, but I want to give a special shout out to Izzy and Katie because they orchestrated all of this. Like I've been MIA with a new baby, and it's just been really beautiful. So thank you to you both, and obviously Ty for participating. Also, thank you, Ty, for sending us baby books that are in Navajo. We really appreciate it. But yeah, I'm just so blown away by all of this. And, you know, I'm a visual artist myself. And so when Jonathan had reached out and they had asked, like Izzy said, about submitting something written, it was like really cool to sort of shift our minds in the way that we were thinking about that. So just really amazed. And thank you, Katie, especially you. She's like my day one bee over here. I mean, Izzy too, but Katie just puts together so much. And I'm sure you can hear my baby grunting into this microphone right here, but thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Emma.
Thanks, Emma. And thank you, Pinyon. I don't really have a question as much as just, I really loved the sort of different places that water was like taking place in everybody's poem, where it's sort of like the abundance of water in Teresa's poem and Sally's poem, and talking about the ocean. And then in like Colleen's work and Crystal and Tammy's, it was sort of like the importance of water as a scarce resource. And yeah, I no question here other than just saying, like, that's sort of the thing that I really enjoyed about this night, for sure.
Yeah, quite a few people.
Well, with that, you know, we have 4 minutes left if y'all just want to stare at each other. Just kidding. But I do, you know, yeah, thank you again, Ty, Katie, all of our poets and all of our audience for joining us. It's been really great to have this community space, and again, see a lot of familiar faces and new faces. And we definitely want to encourage you to stay in the Chapter House loop. Katie, if you don't mind dropping some links for folks. We have a website where you can view the exhibition if you haven't already seen it. We have a blog where we, you know, post at least once a month right now. At least Emma is on parental leave, but we've got some good stuff on there, as well as, yeah, just our calendar of events. And we hope to see you all in person someday, sooner rather than later. Go get vaccinated, stay healthy, drink water, all that good stuff. Thank you all for joining. And yeah, again, like, just to reiterate what Ty said, keep writing, keep creating. That's what keeps the Chapter House going. So thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. Yeah, yay. And one more round of applause for everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Appreciate y'all.
Have a good night.
Thank you,
or
everyone.
afternoon.
Have a great night.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Such an aggressive